This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, saving your day from boredom with the best podcasting entertainment.
Hello and welcome to Superfans. This is one-stop shop for all Chicago sports. This week we have a fantastic episode for you. We have one of our patrons, Tim, actually at the silver tier, suggested a topic that we're going to be taking to cover top sports moments in is it date in history or
last 20 years?
Yeah,
last 20 years. Thank
15
you.
years. 15 years.
15. Okay, we'll take
15. Go Bears.
Go Bears. And our final topics of the day, because if you didn't know, sports isn't really happening because of the coronavirus, but free agency in the NFL is happening, and the Bears have made some moves, and we'll be talking about Nick Foles and Quinn being picked up this offseason. Super exciting stuff for you. But I am joined by, let me check the order, Sean Anderson sitting right next to me. And on the other side of him is Ricky Widmer.
Hello there.
What's up, guys?
There we go. We got them all in there. All right. So for this first segment, I'm just going to toss out one of my top 10, or should we read them all? How do you want
We should read them all.
We should read all.
Yeah,
all
we should all give our top 10s.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm doing mine in no particular order. I can't order these things, but I'll put it up there. Probably first for me is going to be Scott Pasetnik's home run, because it was just incredible. At 2, it is Burley with the perfect game. Devin Hester's kick return for a touchdown in the Super Bowl. The Bulls versus LeBron as a whole, like the hatred there. Highlights have been fantastic across the board. 2 goals in 17 seconds. Patrick Kane with the game winner in the cup. Kobe White and just the 3-point barrage. Khalil Mack peaked, in the first half of the first game of the NFL season. And Derrick Rose being incredibly clutch. And Joakim Noah in the Bulls-Boston series and the hatred that just spotted from that. That's my top 10. I guess moments in Chicago sports in the last 15 years.
Yeah, I'll start off then, and I'll go.
We're going to get more
bottom.
detail, just a heads up. We're going to dig into these as we go, so I just try to give a...
Yeah, absolutely, and I'll start bottom to top. I'll start at 10. I'll give a shout out to Jake Arrieta. His game in Cincinnati, I think he had 15, 16 strikeouts. I think it was a no-hitter or it was a one-hitter. He was phenomenal in that game, though. It was a no-hitter, and I think he struck out like 15.
Yep.
I could be wrong on that, but yeah, he had a no-hitter in Cincinnati. It was a masterful performance. He had one in Los Angeles too on Sunday Night Baseball, but I think the one in Cincinnati was more impressive in my mind. So I'll give Jake Arrieta some love. At 10. At 9, I'm going to go the Bulls-Celtics series in 2009. I know the Bulls didn't end up pull that one out, but that was such an iconic series. That was such a great series. D-Rose really came into himself that year. 7 games between the best teams in the NBA or in the Eastern Conference. That game was that series was fantastic. Neither team ended up going to the finals. They ended up being the Magic that year, beating the Cavs. So, but that series was phenomenal. 8, I'll go with the Rose's game winner in the Cleveland playoffs. Love that one. At 7, I got Brent Seabrook sniping Game 7 to take out Detroit. That was
I almost put that on my list.
Moment. I love that moment.
Almost put it on my
little
list.
Flick of the wrist over Jimmy Howard's right shoulder. At 6, I'm kind of shocked this one was as low as it was for me since I was there. But Mark Burley, perfect game. At 6 for me, huge moment in my life. I love Mark Burley. He's my favorite player. I put all my money, all my stubs that I got pre-ordering MLB The Show to get Mark Burley's card in MLB The Show. I spent all my money to get Luis Robert and Mark Burley. But yeah, Mark Burley's perfect game at 6. At 5, I'm going to go with the Kane game winner in Philadelphia to win the first title. That was, I remember where I was in that moment. You're sitting on the couch right next to the TV, just watching it, and you saw it kind of go in, and you didn't know, and Patrick Kane starts skating around, and that was a huge moment for Chicago there. At 4, I'll go with the Hester Super Bowl return. You finally get to see one of your teams in the Super Bowl, and then and then Hester starts off with a bang, and it was all downhill from there. 3, I'll go with the Scotty Pods walk-off. I know I'm a Sox fan, but I will put the Bryant to Rizzo World Series ending above that. I think that's a bigger Chicago moment than Scotty Pods, because that wasn't even in game 7. That was game 7. That was the final out. After going through the rain delay, after going through Rajah Davis's home run, watching Ricky freak out and almost think that his team was going to blow the World Series, and finally seeing the 2 most important players of that franchise, in my mind. I know that people will argue bias, but I think he's overrated. But having Chris Bryant throw it to Rizzo with Pat Hughes' call and Bryant almost slipping on the infield grass, that's a huge moment for Chicago. And then number 1, I'll go 17 seconds, Boland and Bickle's goals against Boston in the 2013 Stanley Cup Finals. That moment was huge, and that was such a roller coaster of a ride that ended up winning the Cup.
God, the thing that I love was like the Brent Seabrook one. I almost put it on my list. There were so many. There were so many. There was the Brent Seabrook one. I don't know if it's necessarily a moment, but it took over the 2010 playoffs. The Duncan Keith getting hit in the face, losing his teeth, and then it created the parade moment of, does anyone have the number to a good dentist? There's others too that I'm blanking on. For Arrieta, I wasn't thinking that one. I was thinking his wild card performance against the Padres. Or Pirates, not Padres. Pirates.
Yeah.
All of these were all circling, but here's what my list was. And I kept...
I almost put a Schwarber home run on that.
Oh, I did. That's right.
That Pittsburgh game.
The one against the Cardinals that went up on the board.
The moonshot on the Budweiser one, or the Pirates one too. But yeah.
I looked at that one. Mine, I strictly I stuck to the moments that Tim gave us, but I changed a couple of them because I thought there were different moments in that game. The first one, I'm going to start 10-1. So number 10, I got Mark Burley's perfect game. I know I'm not a White Sox fan, but it's hard. Perfect game is hard to do, so I got to give respect to that and what it meant to the city. Then number 9, Devin Hester's touchdown return. With me, I remember I was having my birthday party / Super Bowl party that day, and one of my high school friends at the time, his name was Vinny, he predicted, he goes, you know what, Devin Hester is going to run the first one back for a touchdown. And then it happened, and we all went nuts. Then at number 8, instead of Tim put down the Jimmy Butler-LeBron fight, I have the Bulls versus LeBron James. 2013, you had Kurt Heinrich bear hugging him. You had Jimmy Butler and LeBron getting tangled up in 2014. And then he had the Nazi Muhammad two-hand push after James got a technical in the Eastern Conference semifinals game 3. Then at 7...
Joakim Noah in there.
Joakim Noah too. Just the Bulls against LeBron James. We hate him. Then Derrick Rose, the game winner over Cleveland, where he gave nothing. Straight face after hitting that bank shot to win that game. Then at 6, I got the 2 goals, 17 seconds to help the Blackhawks win their second cup. In 2015, Taj Gibson had 2 dunks against the Heat. I know the putback was the big one, but he also had the posterage of D. Wade. So I got both of those from 2011 Eastern Conference Finals Game 1. Patrick Kane, his snipe goal for the first Stanley Cup at number 4. And then my top 3. At 3, instead of Russell Tobias de Rizzo to send the Cubs to the World Series, I've got Miguel Montero's grand slam in Game 1 of that series, because without that, we probably don't even are in that series after losing Game 1. Then my number 2 is the Boston series from 2009, Bulls against Boston. And then number 1, instead of Bryant to Rizzo, I've got the Zobrist double in the 10th that won us the World Series. That's the one that we got the go-ahead after everything that happened. But obviously, Cubs World Series for me is going to be number 1.
Yeah.
Dave, what was your number 1?
I didn't give an order. I couldn't put them in one. If I had to, the Pasetnik one probably would have been there. I mean, it was so unlikely. It was the blown lead in the 9th. I mean, the Sox making the huge comeback, and Scotty Potts, who's hit 0 dingers in the regular season, goes up to the plate and just laces it out there. And the only thing that could have made that better was if Hawk actually was there to do the calls instead of, Captain No Enthusiasm out there, Joe Buck, just adding absolutely nothing to the game.
Well, and your house was probably going nuts because your mom watches every Sox game.
Yeah, my mom was losing her shit. She's a huge Sox fan, and that was a crazy moment in my household. Yes.
But we can't also forget the Pauly Grand Slam that happened that series as well. That one's huge. The Jeff Blum home run in Houston was huge, and then JD's hit right back up the middle to give him the 1-0 win in Game 4. So I mean, I could have had 4 moments from that 2005 run. I could have had 5 really. You could throw the AJ drop third strike in there from that World Series. You could also throw in.
I avoided that one intentionally.
I hate that moment.
Well, you could also throw in
people over there.
I hate that moment.
You could also throw in El Duque's performance against the Red Sox. If they don't have that, then they might not.
Yeah.
They might not make it to the ALDCS. So and they might because Boston just came off a World Series team, World Series run.
White Sox run in 2005 was magic, and that's why that moment hits closest to heart. My mom had me as a Chicago White Sox fan since I was born, like huge fan. So like that was a moment, that was a cool like kind of like family intertwine into that one. And that's Burley was up there as well. Dwayne Wise. I mean, the look on Burley's face gave it all away. Like when he watched that one get hit, you see the camera on him, and he's pissed, he's turning, he's like, deep sigh. And then it was like, I know I've got it. And
so
that was
yeah,
magic.
and that's the thing too is like you could include Burley's 27 up, 27 down 2 against the Rangers, where he ends up just picking off Sosa after he walks him. And then also too with that game, the perfect game, you're 100% right about the Wise thing too. But the call from Hawk to end that game, like I don't think we could split that up into separate moments because it'd be unfair. But I mean that game being there was electric, and then you watch it back and you watch that. I think there's a video online. It might be the full 9th inning, but it might also be the full 8th and 9th.
Yeah.
But if it is the 9th inning, go watch it back if you're a Sox fan, because you can see how quick Burley's working. He gets the ball, and there's no signs being thrown down by Ramon Castro there. He's just stepping on the bump. He knows what he wants to throw, and he's just going. And he threw more changeups than he did fastballs in that game. Like he was on Mark Burley's 100% there. Like you could not have a more Mark Burley game. It was, I think, under 2 hours or barely over 2 hours. He was electric in that game, kept, that ball moving, kept it in play. And I think the biggest thing and the reason why, that's there over Philip Humber's perfect game.
I almost put it on there as an MVP classic moment. Not Humber, Philip Humber, Sean. You got to say it right. Humber. Hard H.
No, I think with that, Burley being Mark Burley is the reason why this is so high for you, Dave, so high for White Sox fans. I mean, Arrieta was brilliant in his 2 no-hitters, but he's not the level of Mark Burley lore that Jake Arrieta is. And Arrieta won a World Series with the Cubs, but Mark Burley was the guy from 2001 pretty much all the way till 2013, I think, is when he left. So Mark Burley, with all the memories that he had, winning a World Series, 3 27 up, 27 down ones, 1 no-hitter, 1 perfect game. He's a guy that I think, even though it was a regular season game, he can fight with the Super Bowls and the Stanley Cups and the World Series wins just because he was so important to that franchise.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Who was Burley's perfect game against? It was the Rays, right?
The Rays. Yeah, the Rays.
Joe Madden?
The highest OBP in the league. And Jason Bartlett was their 9th hitter. And Jason Bartlett was I think an all-star that year. So that lineup was absolutely stacked that year. It was the year right after they went to the World Series. But yeah, no, Joe Madden was the manager, sorry. Yeah. And they had Carlos Pena up there. They had Carl Crawford, I believe. Jason Bartlett in there.
Such a good lineup.
Gabe Kapler. Yeah, so it's a really good lineup. Really one of the best in the league.
Where were you sitting? Because you were at the
151 game. row 17, seats 3, 4, and 5.
Okay, because Tim says that he was in right field. He was in right field with his mom, he said.
I was in left field, I think 2 sections over from the bullpen. So if you know Guaranteed Rate or the Cell or Comiskey.
This was when they changed it to horizontal bullpens, right? It wasn't the vertical.
So right down the line in left field, there's the Sox pen. And the Sox pen right there, if you go 2 over, I think it's 151. So I was in 151, row 17. And pretty much every time I go to Sox games, I just try to get row 151 now. So if you ever go into a Sox game and you know I'm there, check row 50 or section 151 because I'm probably over there.
Jeez. That's awesome. And I'm with you, man. A lot of it is kind of my childhood growing up with that team. It definitely that emotionally for me. I think that's why, like, I respect the Cubs shit. I understand it. I get the 100 years.
It's just more recent.
Yeah.
The Sox if we're looking at the 20 year window for this, the Sox were good at the beginning of it. The Cubs have been good for the end of it.
Mm-hmm. Well, no, also it's just I'm not a Cubs fan.
Yeah.
That's what I meant. Like, I don't have that emotion.
Yeah. Like for me, where I only have Mark Burley's, like, I don't have the Scotty Pods on mine.
Yeah.
Because like for me, it was like I was telling you before we went live, was my emotion to that Scotty Pods home run is one of disdain and hatred, because I remember I was a sophomore in high school. I didn't want the White Sox to win, mainly because I did not want White Sox fans to be happy. And number two, I knew if the White Sox won, I was the only Cub fan in most of my classes. So, like, whenever they won, I was getting shit, and I was, like, just for being a Cub fan, I would get shit for the Sox winning. Yeah. I mean...
That's what you get.
It's just...
That's exactly what
hey, you know what? It's like you. You grew up in a Sox family. I grew up in a Cubs family. I got pulled over to the Cubs side. But, yeah,
I think...
That's why mine was more disdain.
Yeah, Dave, I want to throw this out to you because, Ricky, I know your answer. If we had to build a cumulative MVP ranking, although we're Sox fans, would you put the 2016 World Series at 1 for Chicago rankings?
If it's all of Chicago and I take my bias, yes, I would. But this is a bias list, and they didn't even make it, so screw you guys.
No, but if we're trying to figure out, like, what's the defining moment of the past 15 years?
Yeah, I think there's nothing been bigger than the Cubs World Series win. I think at 2, it would probably be the Sox, and then 3 would be the start of the dynasty for the Blackhawks. In my mind, what do you think?
So run it again. Cubs.
Cubs, Sox, and then the Kane start of the dynasty, or the 2 and 17 seconds, either one. But like,
yeah, Ricky, I think I it's tough to not put the Sox there just because I am a Sox fan, but I think I would go Cubs, then Hawks, and then Sox.
I would do
there
the same,
just because. I'm a White Sox fan, but you look at the importance of those Hawks teams, and I mean, for those 5 years, there was nothing hotter in the city than the Blackhawks.
Here's the debate that I was telling Dave about, and Sean, I'll say it to you since you're more of a hockey fan than Dave is. So I had Kane's goal at 4, Bickle and Boland's goals at 6, and I almost wanted to flip them because, to me, the reason why I put Patrick Kane higher is because it was the first time we had won in such a long time. But I remember watching that Hawks-Bruins series, that game, and it's like, I remember my mindset of like, fuck, we're going to lose this game. We're going back to Boston. This ain't going to work. We're going to lose in Game 7. Boston has our number. And then, bam, bam, 2 goals in 17 seconds. Like, the fuck? We're going to win this game? Like, the momentum just flipped to where it's like I had a tough time of which Hawk moment should be over which.
There wasn't a worry in that Philly series. Philly was a worse team. They were the first team that I think
Chrissy Pronger, baby. Red Sox,
but they were the first team in NHL to come back from 3-0. And they were 3-0 against the Bruins in the 2010 Eastern Conference Finals. And they weren't really that big of a threat. You had Chris Pronger, you had
I'm sorry, not Chris
Giroux.
Pronger, it's Chrissy Pronger.
Okay. Sick joke. You had Daniel Briere, but Kari Lehtinen was their goalie, I believe. Him, and I can't even think of the other dude, but he had darker hair. But yeah, I mean, they weren't that much of a threat, but Boston was. Boston just came off Boston just came off a Stanley Cup ring.
With Timmy Thomas.
They had Tuukka Rask, they had Chara, they had Patrice Bergeron. Like, this was a dangerous team, and especially giving them a win in Boston, like that would have rekindled them, and then it would have gone down to Game 7, and anything could have happened there. I think it would have forced a Game 7 if the Hawks didn't win that Philly game. I think it might have been Game 5, but I think it was Game 6. But it felt like that series was more in hand, and the Hawks really had the upper hand, especially then it would be going back to Chicago. I know it would have been going back to Chicago in 2013, but it was different then. I felt like Boston was more of a threat, and the fact that they got those 17 seconds, it was such a rush from going from we're going to lose to holy crap, it's tied to holy crap, we won to holy crap, the game's over. And we are now a dynasty. And those two cups definitely rank higher than the Tampa Bay Lightning one, just because the Lightning one was pretty much we kind of kicked their ass.
The other Flyer goalie that you could not remember, former Blackhawk. He played for us after.
I know his name because he's got darker hair. I think he was 30.
He was 27 that year. He is now 35.
His name begins with a B?
Nope.
Last name?
Last name starts with an E.
An E?
An E. Ooh. So you're thinking of I don't know. They have technically 5 goalies listed. They have Michael Leighton. You're probably thinking of either Johan Backlund or Brian Boucher.
Yeah, it was Brian Boucher.
Okay,
because he was their backup goalie.
Because they also had Ray Emery on that team.
Yeah, Emery. I don't think 27-year-old
Ray Emery.
I think Emery was hurt that year.
Okay.
I don't think Emery played for them.
Okay.
So it was Brian and it was
Boucher.
Yeah, Boucher. I think it was Boucher and then Michael Lettman.
Okay.
All right. So if we're those two were fantastic hockey moments. I'll give you that. As far as running out, like, who do you feel falls in next then? Is it the basketball moments, or is it anything Chicago Bears? Because like for me, I look at that Khalil Mack, and honestly, that first half of that first game against Green Bay we peaked. Like that was peak Chicago peaking. That was our offense moved the ball. Our defense was disgusting. We gave the business to Aaron Rodgers. Like the Green Bay Packers were fucking jokes compared to us. We were trolling over the fucking Raiders. Like, oh yeah, great deal, guys. Enjoy your pick number 30. Whatever. It's just like all the jokes.
Yeah, enjoy your running back.
Yep, top of the world. Couldn't be knocked off that perch for that first half. Khalil Mack getting that pick 6 touchdown, just stumbling into the end zone. Like. That was against Kaiser, wasn't it? Because they knocked out Rodgers. I think. Oh shit! Were you right about that?
I think we already knocked out Rodgers out of that game. But yeah, no, I think we're really comparing these two teams that were so close in so many ways, but never got to the peak. Like D Rose obviously getting injured, and then that ended that run, and they had to they couldn't beat LeBron, and then with the Bears too, they couldn't beat the Packers, and when they finally did, they got to play Peyton Manning, and then their quarterback couldn't handle a fucking snap. He would fumble everything that came towards him. So it just feels like those two are way different, because at least Sox moments have that moment of winning a World Series. Cubs fans have that moment of breaking the curse. Hawks fans have 3 cups, where you look at the Bears and you look at the Bulls. Arguably, outside of the Cubs, you could probably say those are the top 3 most popular teams in Chicago, but they never had that defining moment. The Bears had, some game winners, especially Robbie Gould kicking it against Seattle to win that series. And you had the D Rose game winners, but it ultimately led to nothing. So it really just ends up being, I think the moments that could have happened, like D Rose's injury is probably the most important moment of the past 15 years for the Bears. And then Cutler going out in that NFC title game, that's probably the biggest moment for the Bears, because that was another shot to go to the Super Bowl.
It just brings me back to a meme I saw this week where someone put, "The coronavirus can't kill me because I died on this day," and it was just a picture of Derrick Rose laying on the ground.
I mean, you're not wrong, Sean. Let me put it this way: you're not wrong, but we're trying to keep positive Chicago moments.
Well, like if I'm going,
I'm just throwing it out there. Like we're talking about the Bulls and the Bears; those are pretty much the negatives there.
If I'm going for me with the Bears, one moment that we haven't touched on and I'm not the Bears fan, so I don't have connections to like random moments that might be like more impactful to Bears fans. But to me, the Week 1 2010 season, was it a catch or no catch? Lions Bears, that to me, I remember, and maybe it's because I was in college at the time. And I did a sports talk show on my college's radio station, and we did it every Sunday night. And one of my co-hosts was a huge Lions fan, and I will never get the image out of my head of him being A, furious at the call, and B, reenacting what went on the field in front of us on the floor of the studio while we're doing this radio show, because he was that mad about it.
It was a fun moment. Don't get me wrong, but it's
a Bears win.
Bears win, baby.
Fade to black.
Nah. Yeah.
Where does Eddie Piñeiro's Broncos kick rank here? Was it like 15? No one likes that joke. It was a joke, guys. Fucking Christ.
Double doink.
Oh.
I'm done with the negativity. We're all positive here.
Okay, where does Mitch's
playing the Super Bowl for Devin Hester? Because the game was over after that. We just turned it off.
What
about the NFC Championship in 05?
Oh, the Saints game?
Oh my god.
Or was it 05 or 06? The one you guys
06.
won. Yeah,
the one 06,
the one you guys won.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really remember much about that game. I really just remember losing in the Super Bowl. I think that's being a Brady fan as well. We don't lose too many. So it's so I don't
unless you got Big Dick
losing.
Nick going against you.
Yeah, I don't remember losing in the I don't remember the winning in the championship game. I just remember losing in the Super Bowl.
Yeah. I mean, that was just the most memorable thing was no one.
The thing I remember was my dad went to that game and then he was like shirtless and like painted his face. I was like, Jesus Christ, what the fuck are you doing?
Like the only other Bear moment I can think of that like really had people going was the like you have the Nathan Vasher. Was he the one that had the touchdown return on the 49er field goal?
Yep.
108 yards.
Joe Nedney kicked that one.
Yep.
Oh, great call on the Joe Nedney. Man, who could forget?
Thanks. Who could forget Joe Nedney?
I got the corona.
Oh boy.
I was fucking with my mom with that today. She was coughing before I went to take a shower, and I'm like, "Beware, Mom, you might have the corona."
Oh my god. Yeah. I think with the Bears, you're down to a handful of moments. The Vasher one was great. As far as positive moments.
Yeah.
The Vasher one was great. The Khalil Mack one was peak. Devin Hester, that was everything to us because after that we had nothing. But I look at the Bulls and holy shit, boys.
Littered.
Like,
littered with them.
I've got 1 billion of them. And like, I kept it to that Tim had tossed us. And I didn't expect to love it as much as I did. But the Kobe White one, for the pure fact of Ryan Arcidiacono's reaction to it, because like Kobe hits 1, Kobe hits 2, Kobe hits 3. He's starting to really feel it. And at this point, you just know it's like, oh, it's going in. So by number 5, Arch just top key, just to left, passes the ball over, and just turns and hands up and walking away before Kobe even releases the ball. And I was like, oh, that confidence. I love it. I absolutely love it. And it went down, bottom of the barrel, no doubt. And then 6, and then 7. And it was just the momentum of Kobe White becoming an unstoppable 3-point shooter that game was insane. And, like, I know it's not as good as, Joakim Noah and the Bulls versus Boston. I know it's not as good as the Bulls versus LeBron James. Or even Derrick Rose's game-winning 3 coming off that curl against the Cavs. But, like, that was just a series of plays that was just, like, watching it again was awesome. Purely because of everyone else's reaction. Arcidiacono, Sato, like, all those guys out there, we're just fucking going all in.
I had a thought after rewatching all these Bulls moments.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a me thing, but I feel like Ben Gordon doesn't get the respect he truly deserves.
Probably not.
Like rewatching I rewatched most of that Game 5 that we lost in 2009, and then watched some of the highlights from the 2005 Eastern Conference quarterfinals game. I think that was the one against the Wizards. Yeah, he does. Maybe I just overlook what he did, but like Ben Gordon was fucking good. Yeah. He was good for this team, and like rewatching it, it was almost like what you said before we recorded, Dave, of like patron watch along for Chicago fans. We should just rewatch that series again. I know we didn't win in 2009, but like the moments in that
Bulls
series,
Celtics. 17 overtimes. I mean, it just felt like 17.
I like how they had a 3 overtime game, then a 1 overtime game, and then the announcer joked, "Well, at least it's not 3 overtimes." And the next game was 3 overtimes.
It was insane. It was absolutely insane. So I think that's, to me, as far as ranking positive moments. I mean, even though we lost, I think it is still that Bulls-Boston series. Like that was just like throwing everything at it.
We were also the 8 going up against the 1, right? Weren't we an 8 seed that year?
I can't remember, but I wouldn't be surprised.
I'm gonna look it up.
It feels like we would have been, because that would have been.
I think that was the Vinny Del Negro. Was that the Vinny Del Negro perfect 500 year?
It might have been the 41-41. Yeah. I don't know. I just love that series. Like that Bulls Boston series. Just, you had grittiness, you had great finishes, you had overtimes. Players just giving you everything and being drained by the end of it. And it's like, oh, go back out tomorrow night and do it again.
Mm-hmm.
It was an insane series. Absolutely insane. Sean, any fond memories in the setup?
Any fond memories of? I have a lot of fond memories of my life, but what fond memories of what?
Bulls Boston.
Oh yeah, no, I mean that was just the I think throughout my life, because '97 I don't remember watching basketball really until like 2001 2002, and that was the Kings Lakers series, and at that point the Bulls were so bad, so it wasn't really more of a certain moment or a certain thing that stood out in that series, because there was just 7 great games in 2009, and you were going up against a team that really just came off of a title. The Celtics have KG, Paul Pierce, and Ray Allen, and you pushed them to 7. Like, that was a moment that I think gave Bulls fans a push that, like, okay, we have something here. This is something that we could be something, further down the road when this team gets a little bit older. D Rose, Noah, Dang, all coming together, and it finally showed the step forward that this team and the city really needed, at least basketball-wise, post-Jordan era. So I think it was more of an iconic moment, at least for that franchise, because it was the first step of brevity in a very long time.
And it was also the Rondo breakout series too.
Yeah, if Brad Miller would have hit 2 foul shots in Game 5, we would have won that series.
Exactly. I mean, like, you could still make an argument that could have been a series that they won, and you never know what happened. They could have been playing the Lakers in the NBA Finals, and that was the moment that really stood out the most that year was the impact of what they did going up against one of the best teams in the NBA, and they held their own.
Like, rewatching the end last night, the end of that Game 5, like, even though I know what happened and we lost, like, Brad Miller drives into the lane, I still went like, he was fouled. Like, how do you not make that layup? And it, like, all these emotions just come rushing back into you when watching these.
It's old, so memory, whatever, but KG was not healthy during that series.
Yeah, he didn't play Game 5 for sure.
No, he didn't play any of them.
He didn't? Okay. I didn't know the Game 5 because I watched it. But, like, then we almost did it again in 2017. Like, if Rondo didn't get injured, we win that series.
Rondo, and we were gonna.
We went 2-0 on the 1-seeded Boston Celtics, winning 2 games in Boston, and then couldn't win a game after Rondo got hurt.
Yeah, I mean that was definitely something special. But transitioning over, I mean, like, this was basically the start of the, like, D Rose is something like on a different fucking level. This put him on, if he wasn't already on the national spotlight, he was there because of this series. He was just so special. I can't get over watching his early highlights because of how careless and recklessly he threw himself at the bucket. Like, couldn't land, and that's why I have nightmares about Ja Morant.
Too big, too fast, too strong, too good.
But Derrick Rose going upstairs. Probably my favorite highlight of Derrick Rose.
We got the memo.
Because of the call. I mean, that was purely one call made Derrick Rose special. But the 3-point game winner that Tim tossed out there versus the Cavs, where you hear him in the post game, he makes a shot, and like you said, stone face, just no reaction, just hits a bank 3 to game winner in the playoffs, and just no reaction, no sells the whole thing. His whole team's going nuts. He's giving nobody anything. He's like being like tossed around the car, like, I got nothing for you. That was incredible. I don't know, Ricky, do you have any other standout Derrick Rose moments?
I think his entire MVP season could be considered a moment. Like, that was a very special year, and to finally have an MVP back in Chicago, because many people think that LeBron James got snubbed of an MVP that year.
If Michael Jordan does win the MVP, then you can't get mad at LeBron James' fatigue as well.
Yeah. But yeah, besides that, I think we covered most of the moments. Most of them.
I don't know. Anybody in Twitch chat have any other?
Were there any Jay Cutler moments?
No.
Like that were positive.
Smoking Jay Cutler.
Smoking Jay Cutler.
Because that's my favorite Jay Cutler moment is the memeable ones.
There's the Mitch Trubisky 6 touchdown game, but that's about it.
Okay.
We don't even bring that up.
And with Cutler, the moment for trading for Cutler was big, but that's it. I don't think there's anything other moments we're really missing here.
My favorite moment was like Brandon Marshall punting the ball during. That was pretty great. Not a Bears moment, but it led us to get Brandon Marshall. So like, building block.
Tim mentioned no love for Dunleavy.
I talked about this.
Dude got his head split open by Chandler Parsons.
The crimson veil going to basically right here. Chandler Parsons popped him open right above the eyebrow, and it was just a lot of blood. 10 stitches goes in, and he dropped 21 points in the second half of that game. The only reason I don't give it to Dunleavy is because he's a scumbag of a player, and I respect that because he's one of those guys who. He's amazing. You're going to defend him to the death. But when you're playing against him, he is a dirty fucking player. And I respect that. But I can't give him bonus for in putting him in these top moments. Because it's true. You look up, if you start Google search, you just type in Mike Dunleavy dirty, and there's a list of plays. There's YouTube videos for days. I wouldn't be surprised if you just typed in Mike Dunleavy, and the first word that came up was dirty.
Here, let's try it. Mike.
It'll be Junior, probably.
Dunleavy. I gotta spell Levy right.
Let's see.
Bulls. But if I type a D, it's Duke, draft, Duke stats, Duke team, daughters.
I choose to ignore you. It's dirty. It's dirty. If you Google it at home, it's leave. But yeah, that's all my moments for Chicago. I think
when I type
the tarp catch, Derrick Rose not dancing. I thought that was just a funny moment.
Yeah.
It wasn't uber memorable to me. I watched it again. By the way, I want to thank Tim for dropping this topic in there because I rewatched everything you sent, and it was just a holy shit. I'm shit-eating grin ear to ear, loving myself because it was just, I experienced a lot of these moments, but, I didn't actually take the time to go back and rewatch them and re-experience them. That was pretty great.
I love how when I type Mike Dunleavy dirty, the top one is a Reddit post from 2016. Can anyone explain the Dunleavy hate? I can't believe r/NBA thinks Mike Dunleavy is a dirty player.
Yeah, he's very dirty. But he's like that old school dirty. He's like the guy you'd see in the 70s.
Like Kurt Rambis. I'm gonna clothesline you.
Clothesline people, anything dirty. That would be him. He's a gamer.
Where does Nick Foles being traded for rank in Bears lore? Is that a top 15 moment or top 10 moment in Chicago history?
If we win a championship, it will be.
Big Dick Nick.